Good morning. Our meeting will come to order. Our mayor, Mr. Edwards, is not here today, and this is the first meeting he's missed between the planning board and the Board of Commissioners in 11 years. So I ask for everyone's patience with me today. Also, if you'd like to speak at public comments, we ask that you sign up in the back of the room. And at this moment, let's have a moment of silence. All right, are we ready to stand and have the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, it's time to adopt the agenda, and an item of note on F6 under the consent agenda, that should be the R2 medium density residential zoning district instead of the CR district. Everyone will make a note of that. And then also, since our mayor is not here today, under H1, new business, we have appointment to the planning board. We have one vacancy. So I'd like to know the pleasure of the board. Would you like to table this until our next meeting, or move it to our next meeting, or would you like to move forward? It's a pretty important decision today, so.
I'd suggest that we move forward because I know the mayor's very interested in this appointment, and it'd be good to have everybody, hopefully, if possible.
So move it to the next agenda?
Move it to the next agenda.
I agree.
Okay. All right, well, we'll need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. I'm sorry.
Motion to adopt the agenda as corrected and amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now it's time for audience response, and we ask that everyone limit their comments to 5 minutes if at all possible. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Please state your name and address.
I'm Richard Murphy. I live at 8817 South Old Oregon Inlet Road. Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. Historically, the town's approach has been not to increase nonconformities of existing structures. Commissioner Cahoon reminded us at the meeting that, at the January 7th Board of Commissioners meeting, that our mission statement or land use plan had a statement in there that was, we were trying to remove all nonconformities in the town. Obviously, that's been removed. In 1985, a shrewd builder used cottage court ordinances to get around subdivision restrictions that prohibited oceanfront lots from being subdivided. We have two in South Nags Head that were classified as cottage courts, but they were actually built with the full intention of turning them into condos and selling them individually. They were never owned by one individual other than the builder. So we swiftly moved forward and eliminated the cottage court concept, in Nags Head. Obviously, that created an existing problem. We all of a sudden classified cottage courts as non-conforming. So we have a lot of old cottage courts in town that are non-conforming because of that move. In hindsight, that was something that I was on the Nags Head Civic Club, Civic Association in South Nags Head. That was something that we worked hard to get the commissioners to take a look at to circumvent subdivisions like that taking place. But In hindsight, it would have made a lot more sense to have required cottage courts, or as we call them now, cluster developments, to actually be, stay under one ownership. If it was under one ownership, back then, we created problems that have risen with owners that have equal number of owners on the HOAs, and if it's a tie vote, they can't do anything to improve the infrastructures or anything. So cottage courts is something that is a very big historical significance, to Nags Head. I think Commissioner Cahoon owns a cottage court. And that's part of the old Nags Head. I owned one right up next to the Kildare Hills line for a number of years. And it's something that a lot of people desire, and it's part of our culture, I'd say. As all of you know, I had the privilege of serving on the planning board, and in that capacity, I was able to serve on the stormwater ordinance subcommittee as well as the parking subcommittee. Once the new stormwater ordinances were in place, we immediately began working on reviewing and amending our parking ordinance. Our main objective was to reduce parking, thereby decreasing the amount of concrete and hardened surfaces, and to assure that our parking ordinance was aligned with our stormwater ordinance. When we began reviewing residential parking, we went from a reduced parking mindset to a trying to solve a parking problem of underparked residential rental properties. The only solution was to increase parking requirements. This was obviously in contrast to what our original objective was in reducing parking. This also negatively impacts our stormwater, newly enacted stormwater ordinance. It's refreshing to see that our process of joint workshops, public hearings, and multiple reviews by staff, subcommittees, and our planning board has given us input to make an informed decision. During the January 7th Board of Commissioners meeting, Andy Garman estimated that the proposed change to residential parking would make about 60% of our residential properties non-conforming. Mayor Edwards rebutted that and said his estimate was closer to 90%. Whether it's 60 or 90% is almost irrelevant. It's a major number. That's what we need to keep in mind. I would tend to agree with Mayor Edwards. Our objective has been and should remain that we should not enact ordinances that create nonconformities. When Commissioner Cahoon pointed out the two houses under construction just north of her property, that if we enacted the suggested or proposed changes, that those houses would be nonconforming before the certificate of occupancy was even given. This is obviously not our intent. During the Board of Commissioners discussion, I was surprised to hear Commissioner Demers state, and I quote, if they are already non-conforming, what difference does it make if there's one more non-conformity? Well, it could make a huge difference. I totally disagree with this. We have houses that are on small lots, some properties that have two or more houses on a single lot, some houses that don't meet the current setback regulations, and the list goes on and on and on. All these things need to be taken into consideration, and obviously the sale of a property and being able to finance that is a concern. The nonconformities on properties the likelihood of obtaining financing begins to diminish. Most nonconformities on old properties can be explained as grandfathered, and financing is not a problem. But on new properties, like the ones Commissioner Cahoon pointed out to us, are $1 million plus properties. And are we opening, my question would be, by creating nonconformities of this nature for new houses, are we exposing the town to legal challenges by negatively impacting the marketability and sales price of those properties?
Mr.
This brings us to the question that what do we do?
Mr. Murphy, may I ask you to wrap it up?
Okay. My first inclination is to keep residential parking at N-2. However, the proposal that Commissioner Walters suggested of N-2 for 4 or less bedrooms and N-1 for 5 or more bedrooms has merit, and I feel that the staff should review this option to see if there is any negative impact on our stormwater ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? The public comment? Okay. Let's move on to recognition, the fun part. Chief Zork?
Morning, Mayor Pro Tem, Board. It's my pleasure to introduce to you firefighter EMT Ryan Culpepper. He's the newest member of the fire department. He comes to us from Chesapeake, Virginia, and he started in the fire service at age 16 with the Norfolk Fire Rescue Explorer Post. It was a junior firefighter organization. While there, he had the opportunity to pursue his interest as a future firefighter by observing and participating in emergency work on a first-hand basis. So he started young, for sure. He served for 3 years at Crawford Township Volunteer Fire Department and Princess Anne Courthouse Volunteer Rescue Squad, where he held the rank of lieutenant. Next, that wasn't enough for him, so he moved to Kentland Volunteer Fire Department in Maryland, and he lived at the fire station as a volunteer for 3 years and had a lot of activity and really honed his skills. This guy really loves the fire service, there's no doubt about it. Throughout his volunteer career, he's continually taken firefighter training and certification classes, which include pump operator, leadership, incident safety officer, fire officer 1, rescue tech, and rapid intervention team school. Did I miss anything? Okay. He enjoys the outdoors, working with his hands on special projects. He also holds an associate's degree in automotive science. He's very skilled there, and Ryan is engaged to be married in June to his fiancée, Danielle. And we welcome him to the town of Nags family of employees.
You know, we expect 20 years now.
That's right, the guy standing there next to you has a lot of proof. So we expect you to meet that.
I'm going to ask Roberta to take Carolyn's seat and write whatever you want to.
Be careful with that remark.
Good morning. It's obviously a pleasure for me and an honor for me to be standing next to our town clerk, Carolyn Morris, and be able to recognize her for her 20 years of tremendous service to the town of Nags Head and to the board and to the citizens. Carolyn started as the deputy clerk on January 23rd, 1995, and as you know, on the last day of your retreat, she spent her 20th anniversary at a board retreat, which was kind of fitting because of all that she does and how much that she's done for all of us. For me, when I first started, Carolyn has been extremely patient with me, and her patience has grown because I ask a lot of the same questions and ask her for a lot of the same information over and over again. But I don't have to worry about where I put things, or I don't have to worry about a filing system, or I don't have to worry about knowing the answer to everything, because I can ask Carolyn, and within minutes she'll have the answer, and she'll have a file. How she does it is just amazing to me. John Lottie has commented on before about how fortunate we are from his perspective through public information requests, through things that go way, way back. It's a pleasure and an ease for all of us to be able to have Carolyn there. Carolyn, she doesn't she's not enjoying this because she doesn't like to be out in front in the recognition. As you all know, she said before that things she doesn't want to do, she gets Michelle to do, and I'm sure she'd rather Michelle be standing here than her. Carolyn was the deputy clerk to Connie Hardy. She became the interim clerk in '96 and has been the full-time clerk of the board since July of 1996. She's a certified municipal clerk. She started out her years in government at the federal level. Then she moved to Dare County and Social Services until finally she figured out that she can make an impact at the local level, and I'm very thankful that she did that. I hope to be here for a long time, and I hope that time is spent with Carolyn as being the clerk. I just can't say enough about how much I appreciate her, and I know how much all of you appreciate her. And if she wasn't so patient, I would have probably lost the chance to still be standing here. So she's covered for me a lot. Carolyn, thank you very much.
It's been both an honor and a pleasure. It really has.
Definitely is a pleasure. Thank you very much for helping that job.
Okay, I think everybody's anticipating this moment. Mr. Morton. We dug out this little gem here on the screen. This is something that we prepared in the planning department years ago, and we recirculated it to everybody just recently.
Are you sure it's 20 years and not maybe 30 or 40?
It's entitled "What a Long, Strange Trip It's Been." That's a picture taken the year before he started with the town, 1994. And then below is when he got the Employee of the Year award. And I'm not sure exactly what year that was, but now we're here at 20 years. And so it's time to recognize Dave Morton for his service. I wrote a speech because this was too important to screw up. So I'll just go ahead and read this for everybody. So, the planning department has sure had some interesting times over the years. David Buddha Morton has been a big part of this. Most would describe his personality as colorful, to say the least. To provide some occasional comic relief, the department keeps a list of sayings frequently heard in the planning department on a daily basis. Right now, the list is up to 20 or so, and 3/4 of those have been coined by David Morton. I would love to play those for the board today, but my better judgment took over and decided against it. We will save these for the celebrity roast we plan to have if and when David retires.
Never.
So on a more serious note, most of you know that the North Carolina Building Code is administered at the state level under the Department of Insurance and the Office of the State Fire Marshal. Many communities have this responsibility classified under public safety rather than planning. No one takes this role more seriously than David. I'll just go ahead and tell a story about myself. Don't want to make this about me, and more about me, which is one of his sayings, but I'll say it anyway. When we first moved here, we built our house in Nags Head. David did most of the inspections. Needless to say, I would go to the job site most days, except the days where inspections were done. For some reason, my builder, a great guy, was not always in the best mood those days. Our stairs have a landing, and the first set of stairs from the bottom floor dies off into the ceiling, or the handrail dies off into the ceiling. When the stairs were initially built, there was a gap in the railing for the last few set of those stairs. Buddha politely asked the builder to add a small section of handrail to be placed against the wall in that area. I don't know if some folks might consider this to be a picky request, but I cannot tell you how many times my children or my aging parents have used this over the years. I wouldn't like to think about what might have happened if it had not been there. I think that Dave Morton is a true professional that the town has been lucky to have watching its back for the last 20 years, and we're certainly a safer and more interesting place because he has been here. So, thank you, sir. Thank you.
And now we have a presentation from the YMCA from Executive Director Katie Burgess.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to come have one of these presentations because it's a time where I get to say thank you. It's a time where I get to tell you a little bit about what your community YMCA is doing. And when I say your community YMCA, I mean everyone, whether you're a member of the Y or not. The YMCA is for all. It's for everyone in our area. And I get a small snippet of time to tell you just some of the things that we're doing at the Y. So we could start. Just to give you a little background, I know many of you in here are members of the Y, but the mission of the Y, we are a nonprofit 501c3 charity. The mission is to put Judeo-Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy spirit, mind, body, and for all. It's a mouthful, but the last two words are really, truly the most important part. It's for all. The YMCA does not discriminate on age, race, gender, creed, nor financial need. So we want everyone to be able to come, whether they can afford it or not. And I'll tell you in just a few minutes how we are able to do that. I'd like to begin just by showing some pictures because, as we know, pictures tell 1,000 words. These are just a few snippets of our summer camp program. Each year, the YMCA provides a fun environment, safe environment for over 100 of our community's youth. That's every week. We have over 100 of our community's youth. We provide opportunities to go to the beach, to enjoy different local activities. We do arts and crafts, sports. Every day they get to come to the pool and swim lessons, of course, and much, much more. We offer a lot of family activities. On the top, you'll see a tug of war. That is a family tug of war. Not sure which side won. It took a while. But we offer multiple days where families can just come and enjoy themselves. You'll see two other pictures. One is at Jeanette's Pier. We had a summer camp that was for fishing. We had many donations, many volunteers offer 20 at-risk children a free camp for an entire week based on fishing. Some of these kids had never been fishing before, and we live in a community where that's one of our mainstays. So it was great to be able to see every single one of them catch at least 2 fish, no matter how big they were. The third picture is a picture of one of our swim camps. This is a swim clinic. We had just about 80 kids in swim clinics this summer, not only learning technique and skill and the life-saving skill of swimming, but also having fun, learning to play games in the water and enjoy others' socialization. We're able to offer some unique programs. You'd think swim lessons are just typical for the YMCA, but this is actually the after-school program from Nags Elementary. We were able to offer the after-school program swim lessons at a reduced rate to make sure that everyone is able to swim. This is a very heartwarming class. If you're a volunteer for this class, you may not work out your heart in terms of muscular endurance, but you will work your heart out and make it so much bigger working with special needs and disabilities. We call this Zumba with Friends. If you're familiar with Zumba, Zumba is a cardio dance activity, but this is a class based on working with children and adults with special needs. We have everyone from severe and profound in a wheelchair, as you can see, to very high functioning who want to get that energy out. So we're very excited to be able to offer that to these participants for free. As you know, the Y is all about sports. We do love getting those kids out and getting them active. You'll see a top picture of soccer, and the bottom picture is our cheer tumble class. But we also offer little dribblers, little kickers. We have all different kinds of activities going on at the Y. And opportunities for all ages. In the top left-hand corner, you'll see an active older adult chair class. We also have Aqua Zumba, and you'll see in the bottom corner a kids yoga class. And again, time for families. We have special occasions, cookies with Santa, turkey trots, daddy-daughter date night at the YMCA. And also in the lower corner, you'll see Zumba for kids. Of course, we want the parents to participate as well, but we offer many opportunities for the family. And of course, swim lessons. Again, it's never too important to stress how important that of a life skill swimming is. Last year, we taught just over 600 kids how to swim in our area. That's a phenomenal number. And also learning about our environment. As I mentioned during camp, we do lots of activities, and this is just one of those activities. You'll see our professional role model is in the front, AKA camp counselor, teaching the kids about the Nags Woods area. And we're involved in the community. You'll see us outside of the YMCA walls at several functions. The top right-hand picture is an active older adult luncheon, and the bottom picture is the St. Patty's Day Parade, where the YMCA has a float, and we had Zumba participants. You'll also see us at the Kitty Hawk Carnival, Pumpkin Fest, Seafood Fest. We try to be a part of many, many things. So I would like to show you a video. It's very brief, but it's about a difference that we were able to make in our community. Just one of the hundreds of stories I am fortunate to be able to hear every year. This is a local family, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the program that they're discussing after we watch the video. So if we could.
My name is Chris Bernauer, and I've been a member of the Y for almost 4 years. When I first enrolled to get a membership here, the staff here told me about the open doors policy to help me figure out a way to afford it, because when they first told me the pricing, it was a little scary for me being a single parent and really kind of seasonally employed. I work on charter boats as a living here, so my day starts at 4 o'clock in the morning and I don't get home till sometimes 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Being gone that long and that far away from land, having a place for Kieran to be that is safe and fun is a real good peace of mind. After doing swim lessons and exercising here, the Y also offers a great summer camp program, and my son was enrolled in that, and with the open doors policy I was able to afford having him here for the summer, which has been a really big help to me. They had a lot of young counselors here that were really, really good with kids, and all the activities of swimming and skateboarding and basketball, racquetball, and then they took field trips to the beach. They kept the kids really entertained and happy, and the kids were able to make new friends as well as see their old ones and grow, learning how to get along with other kids socially. Without the YMCA, Kieran would get stuck at somebody's house, a neighbor. You know, I've got friends whose parents still live here on the beach, and he would get stuck with them at their house for the day, where, you know, he might get outside for an hour if he's lucky, but most of the time he'd be stuck in front of a television or something. The Outer Banks YMCA has given me lots of opportunities to create a bond with my son, as well as have a safe place for him to be while I'm on a boat all day. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We love the YMCA.
So again, that's just one example of the hundreds of stories that I'm able to hear throughout the year. It makes me smile just to watch that video, and I've seen it 100 times, so I hope it put a smile on your face as well. So Chris referenced the Open Doors program several times throughout the video, but I'd like to break it down a little bit for you. The Outer Banks YMCA is growing. In the last 5 years, we have increased in size in terms of memberships, but we have also increased in size in terms of what we're doing. Right now, as of last night, we have 2,027 member households. A household is either an individual or a whole family. So one household may be up to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. That equates to just under 5,000 members. And again, these numbers change on a daily basis. Because the YMCA didn't have a contract, we do have people joining, terming, so these numbers do change regularly. But we serve about 21,000 people throughout the community annually in our programs and membership. If you remember in the beginning I said the YMCA is for all, that means that even if you're not a member, we want you to be able to participate at the YMCA. We want you to be able to come to our programs. And so they are available to everyone, even if you're not a member. We had over 200,000 people come through our doors last year in 2014. So with that being said, 37% of our members and program participants receive some type of financial assistance. That is called our Open Doors program. $405,000. That is an astronomical amount, I believe, for the Outer Banks. What other nonprofit charity in the Outer Banks gives that type of money away, just so that people can participate and come to their programs? We served over 1,800 individuals and families through the Open Doors program in 2014. So let's break it down even farther, because we're in the town of Nags Head. We need to know exactly what that means. 402 of those households this year are town of Nags Head residents. That equates to just over 1,300 residents. Remember, one unit or household unit could be up to 4, 5, 6 people. Now, based on the last census or demographic information I had, 3,700, 3,772 about. So that's almost 50%, right? That's a little bit under, but very close. Think about that. That's an amazing number. So 358 of those Nags Head households receive financial assistance. That totals 906 people, 267 families, 19 couples, 72 individuals. So the YMCA is giving the town of Nags Head residents a significant amount of financial assistance. And those 100 kids that I talked about in summer camp every week, 25 of them were from Nags Head. And over $5,000 in financial assistance was just given to that program for summer camp. You may ask, how do we decide what programs to offer? How do we know what the residents and the town people want? Well, we do extensive surveying. We do extensive market research, finding out what trends are, what is going on nationwide, but we also do that on a local level. This year, not only did we do surveys throughout our membership to find out what they wanted, but we also did a community-wide survey. We called it the Master Plan. We wanted to create a vision for the Outer Banks Family YMCA for the next 5 or 10 years. And so we surveyed over 120 of our members and non-members with paper surveys, but then we also did over 40 individual interviews, 20 focus groups, even with the commissioners and the mayor, and trying to get feedback of what our community wants, what our community needs, where we are strong, where we are weak, where we're falling short, where we need to improve upon. And we had some great feedback from that. So we implement all of those suggestions and comments that we're able to create new programs and find out what we need to do to better serve our community. We have an extraordinary opportunity to brighten the future of our community. If you think about the numbers, I hesitate sometimes to give numbers because sometimes it almost seems boastful, but it shows the impact that the YMCA is having in our community. 1 out of 6 people in our county, in Dare County, come to the YMCA. That's huge impact that the Y is having. And YMCA and the town of Nags Head have always had a very good partnership from day one. We are very fortunate to be in this community, and together we're able to help young people achieve their potential, empower people of all ages to lead healthier lives and strengthen our community. We appreciate in the past the donations that the town has been able to give the YMCA to go toward the financial assistance. As you can see, those financial assistance numbers are huge from the town residents. So one of the things I'd like to leave you with is just a reminder that we do have the open doors. No one will ever be turned away based on their inability to pay YMCA fees. We have an annual giving campaign. Now remember, I said we gave over $405,000 out in financial assistance in 2014. We raised just over $50,000. So there's a big discrepancy there. But we know that that's going to happen. We know that this community has more needs than we can get in donations, and we're understanding of that. But the money that we raise here in the Outer Banks stays in the Outer Banks. All 50,000 of that we raised will stay at the Outer Banks YMCA to help our program and membership participants. So just a short synopsis. $12.50 will provide a child all 10 weeks of Outer Banks YMCA day camp during the summer. $250 ensures that 5 children will be safe in the water with swim lessons, and $35 provides a child 8 weeks of Y Sports programming. So I'd like to leave you with a few thoughts. You know, it's not all about the numbers. We're more than just a swim and gym. A lot of people think of the YMCA and they think pool, they think basketball court, they think workout equipment. It's so much more than that. We offer financial responsibility classes, Financial Peace University. We offer tutoring. We offer things much outside of the realm of just a swim and gym, beyond our childcare. So please remember that the YMCA is a cause that will continue to support and strengthen your community in which we live. And we appreciate the help that the town of Nags Head has in doing so. So thank you so much for letting me present, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has some.
Thank you, Katie. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we have a report from our planning board chair, Mark Cornwell. Douglas? Oh, consent, I'm sorry.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda as corrected.
Is there a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we'll have the report from our planning board chair.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, good morning. First of all, I guess there are some congratulations in order with Andy's selection to his new position. On the flip side, Cliff, no kudos for you for ripping him off. At our January 20th meeting, we had 5 members present and 2 absent. We had 4 action items. We acted and approved 3 of those, tabled 1, and then we had 1 item for discussion that came to us from the Board of Adjustments related to cottage courts, and I'll talk to that at the end. The first one was one that I talked about in my last report, where we considered a text amendment application from April Vaughn on behalf of Whalebone Surf Shop to permit multiple principal uses within one commercial building. Currently, the town code only allows multiple principal uses within one structure under 3 circumstances: the office retail group development, commercial residential mixed development, and within the C3 commercial service district. And those are all by conditional, or approvals are by conditional use only. Now, during our discussion, and what caused us to table this item in the first place was, what districts should this apply to? Do we limit the number of principal uses? How do we park principal uses, and so on? Now, since that time, and what happened at the last meeting, 2 things. One, the Vaughns decided to move in another direction, so the urgency for this particular item to move forward kind of evaporated. And the second thing is, we received comments from the attorney, but they weren't in our packet in time for us to consider, so we felt that they were important and needed to be included and reviewed prior to coming forward with a text amendment. So again, we tabled that item to this February meeting. We also revisited the stormwater limitation on lot fill, and that was the item I discussed last time as well, where the contractors are putting 12 inches of concrete down in order to meet the requirement to get 1 foot above BFE. The planning staff brought forward four potential solutions to the problem. two of which we considered not to really be viable. So the two that we wrestled with were just adding fill to get us the additional 1 foot above BFE, or to do what's called a turn-down slab. If you throw that up for me, please. So as I mentioned, this was brought forward as a solution. It's a less expensive practice than the 12-inch concrete, and it meets the requirements, or we believe the intent of the stormwater plan. So in essence, there's 8 inches of additional fill, then there's 4 inches of concrete, which is normal practice for the slab, and then the turn-down sides, which keep the fill in place. And that is the solution that we came forward with, and we approved that unanimously. The third item was consideration of the zoning text amendment related to fishing piers within the R2 medium density residential district. You approved at your January meeting the text amendment regulating fishing piers within the CR district. During your discussion, you directed planning staff to draft similar language for fishing piers in the R2 district. The planning board reviewed the language in the text amendment and approved that unanimously. And that's scheduled for public hearing. Our final action was to consider revised amendments to the town parking ordinance. This was also sent back or taken back to the planning board for the latest revisions. So we came up with a more objective standard to be used in determining the types of pavement materials that can be used for residential applications. You had asked for clarification of that language. We also clarified the language regarding replacement of alternative parking services that were improperly maintained. And so we made sure that it was clear that only after a period of time that those parking services were determined by the town to be improperly maintained or unsubstantial, then the owner would be asked to make corrections. We reinstituted the single and two-family dwelling parking standard of N-2. We inserted an industry parking standard applicable to taxi and limousine service. This was not something that you asked us to look at, but after going back over it, the standard as it originally brought forward was determined to be confusing and could possibly have led to overparking in a taxi limousine situation. The section related to the town of the village of Nags was modified to correct the reference error. The standard for fishing piers was revised to be consistent with your recently adopted ordinances. And lastly, we removed any reference to the need for curb stops in a residential setting. These revisions were approved unanimously, and you've now scheduled a public hearing for the parking ordinance. Our last item that I mentioned came from the Board of Adjustments. It was centered around the intent of the regulations for non-conforming cottage courts, specifically in this case relating to minor additions such as attached, detached storage sheds, and open deck expansions. At their July meeting, the Board of Adjustments received and approved a request for variance for an accessory structure for storage purposes. Now, historically, this application, when it comes forward to staff, would be denied because it constitutes an expansion of nonconformity. So the Board of Adjustments expressed concern that the intent of regulating expansion and alteration of the cottage courts had been lost, and that's in their words. So they requested staff, then the planning board, and ultimately the commissioners to review the definition of accessory structure as it's related to cottage courts. So the planning board is going to do that, and then we'll see if any changes are warranted to what's currently in the code. That concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Good report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to new business. And consideration of request from Old Nags Head Property Owners Association.
Can we do the committee reports?
I'm sorry?
Committee reports.
Oh, that's, the planning board. I'm sorry. I was looking at that as the planning board appointment only. Okay, committee reports, please. Anyone?
Was that the, town manager and I were at the Dare County Northern Beach Nourishment meeting yesterday. Planning is done for the 3 towns up there. They are now in the permitting and funding process, and I won't go into any of that details there, with an expectation that they can open bids on or about 1 January 2016. So it's moving. Next is the ARPO. If you remember, I talked about the strategic transportation corridor map became the strategic highway corridor map, and in the process lost 158, 168, and the Mid-Currituck Bridge. We have managed to get 158 back on that map. So 158 east of 17, running down here, is now back to being a strategic highway corridor. We did not get 168 or the Mid-Currituck Bridge. Now, the Mid-Currituck Bridge is frankly going to just be one of those discussion items that the ARPO and the state are going to have forever, but we're going to continue to have it. We're going to ask our DOT representative, Malcolm Fearing, to take the 168 Currituck thing to DOT and see if he can't discuss it. We also working on the SPOT, which is the new scoring criteria for the next round. It appears that seasonal traffic will now be a scoring criteria, although I don't have any details as to what that means, but at least it'll be there. We have not been successful with evacuation yet. What he seems to think evacuation is important, I guess. And so we may ask Mr. Fearing to take that back also, as much as we can. And there appears to be a move afoot that would, ferries in the current version were only funded at division level, which I've talked about before, that if we were forced to maintain and pay for our own ferries, it would completely suck the transportation budget of Northeast North Carolina dry. It appears there's a move afoot now that will move ferries to division or regional funding, which opens up a whole other pot of money. And it may give us an option to avoid having to ask for tolling on them, et cetera. So things are changing as we keep going. It's nice to know that as we keep discussing things, things change, and, for the better. And I think that is it from my committees.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Cahoon?
I'm happy to report that the Nags Head Promotion Committee has been selected. I'll be forwarding the names to you. Letters have gone out asking for people to give us their best dates to have our initial meeting. I think we have a broad cross-section of the town serving on the committee. It's fairly split between male and female, and ages as well, so, and different cross-section of businesses. So I'm real excited to see us move forward, and I'd like to thank Andy and Kelly for both their help in helping move this committee forward. So we should be having more reports, and meetings will be starting.
Commissioner DeMars?
Just a projection report, if that makes sense. The Solid Waste Management Authority and the Mid-Atlantic Stormwater Task Force are both tentatively scheduled for meetings in February-March timeframe. And so I'm anticipating attending both of those, and we'll report back after those meetings are completed.
Okay, thank you. Now, we'll have the consideration of requests from Old Nags Head Cove Property Owners Association regarding traffic control map amendments. And that'll be
Yep, thank you.
From time to time, the town gets requests from various neighborhoods for staff to look at potential changes to traffic patterns and be it speed limits in the various neighborhoods or stop signs at intersections, yield signs. The way we evaluate those is those requests come through the police chief, and he'll sit down with the neighborhood that's making that recommendation or the point of contact to look at other alternatives. We don't always think that stop signs are the best to control traffic, but in this particular case, we think that may be the case. We also try to make sure that we're hearing from the majority of the neighborhood, that these aren't individual requests, but these are requests that meet the neighborhood's desire, and I think that's been accomplished here. This particular request is coming from the old Nags Cove Property Owners Association, and the chief and I have met, and he's got some recommendations. We don't think that we can fully support what they're requesting, but we do think there may be an opportunity to adjust the traffic here.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, Board of Commissioners, end of September 28th, received a letter through the town manager from Mark Foster, who's on the Nags Cove Association Board, talking about concerns with speeding in the area. What we did is deployed this radar trailer in that area we did 5 or 6 different surveys over a period of time. I then met with Mr. Foster and shared the results of those surveys with him, which prompted his letter that he wrote to the town manager on January the 6th. On behalf of the town on behalf of the association's board, excuse me, asking for some changes to be made to West Old Cove Road. The 2 changes that he was asking for was to change the one-way stop at the T intersection of West Danube Street and West Old Cove Road to a 3-way stop. And the second one was to change the 2-way stop at the intersection of West Danube and South China and Barracuda to a 4-way stop. And again, that request was made on behalf of Mark Foster, who's the secretary of the Old Nags Cove Association, Marty Gross, the vice president, and Robert Parnell, the president of the association. When we looked at speeding in the area, there are some concerns. If you can picture the road that we're talking about, it is a flat, straight stretch from the bypass to the Danube Street, down to the access, to the Soundside access. It's unique. There's not many roads that are that straight and Nags Head and that flat. So you'll see in my memo, I think that we can look at helping the problem somewhat by not fully doing the request that they were asking for, but let's start off smaller instead of jumping with both feet in. And my recommendation would to recommend the intersection of Old Cove and West Danube a 3-way stop, and that would I think certainly help some. That intersection is about in the middle of those 2 points, both east and west. Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices initially says stop signs should not be used to control speeding, but then there's a subsection in there that says excessive speeding is a factor in considering stop signs. It's not sure how it's written that way, but that's the way it's written. So I would initially I would start off small, and again, I think it's important to note that this is not a request from a couple different homeowners. You're talking about the association as a whole. The times that I've met with Mr. Foster, and he was the letter came from the board, but I haven't be available to answer any questions that you may have.
The one thing that struck me was I was really happy to see that you did the survey in late September, which indicates that it's not a summer season problem.
Yes, ma'am.
That it's more of a year-round problem, because summer season's pretty well over on the west side in that area.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's basically our residents.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
And those surveys continued into November as well, so we did it over a period of time, which I think gives us a little bit better data.
well, I think that data lends a whole lot more credibility, because if it's a peak season issue, then it kind of gets skewed.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you.
Mr. Norris? Okay, what's your pleasure?
I-
Any comments?
I motion to adopt the traffic control amendment for Nags Head Cove stop signs in Nags Head Cove.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
And that was per the chief's
Per the
recommendation.
chief's recommendation.
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, now we'll have an update on the townwide recycling program from our town manager.
Thank you. I want to first start by thanking staff, Public Works Director, the Deputy Manager, and Roberta, the PIO, for the patience and the process of going through trying to determine what we can recommend and what we're most comfortable in going forward with. And I'll try to present this so that it doesn't turn into a who's on first type skit. But this is something that the town's been talking about and considering for quite a while, is going to a mandatory townwide recycling program. We've been, I think, pretty proactive in trying to get out in front of some of the recycling. As you know, we have a voluntary recycling program that we started with almost 6 years ago, and there's probably close to 500 people that are subscribing to that voluntarily. And then we've just been through 2 summers of having a mandatory pilot program with the idea on the beach road, with the idea that that's where we're going to get the majority of the bulk of recycling out of the waste stream. If we're going to capture it, it's going to be during the summer season and from the tourists. We've looked at this, we've talked about this at your last retreat. We've looked at this, and what we've put together, I think, is with the idea that we're going to try and be as cost-effective as possible and to be as efficient as we possibly can without disrupting the service that people are accustomed to. The program is probably, if we were to go to mandatory recycling, hopefully you can reduce the waste stream enough to where it reduces the cost of the program. And I think this is one of the few examples where we can show that the reduction in the tipping fees will offset the cost of recycling. So the more you recycle, the cheaper it is to recycle. And I think if we design this so that the reduction in tipping fees that we see from 1 year, we can roll that into the cost of reduction in the recycling. So if we could, we've put together some slides, and what I'm hoping to be able to do is to give you the confidence that we can go out and put out an RFP to try and get some bids in so that we can start comparing and looking at costs. And I've got 2 options that I'm going to present with 1 recommendation, and that's what we'd like to be able to do, is go to bid. And then, as you know, one of the goals that you set at your retreat previously was one of the recycling solid waste trash schedules. And so what we'd like to be able to do is get some of this data, some of these numbers, and bring it back to the committee that was established to kind of vet the numbers and kind of go through the process and look at the data, and then ultimately have a recommendation for the board during the budget process. I think it's important to start with what we presently have, and we have, the way that the town's split up, as you know, it's the east route and the west route. In this map, you'll see that the east route is shaded in brown, the west route is in green. The east route has 2,045 stops, and the west route has 2,216. Now, that's not necessarily the number of cans, but that's the number of stops. Okay. A change that was made maybe 4 years ago, the east route used to include everything east of the bypass. But we've tried to, we took out this green area here and went to, in the summer, instead of 3 days of the summer pickup, this was included for 2 days. So they're getting 2 days of service. This part's getting 3 days. And this is mainly the old, this is, I guess, the north end of town. There are some year-round residences, but these are primarily the smaller houses, the older houses that may not have as many bedrooms as the west of west, or the rest of the east route, therefore not as much collected, okay? What we've put together here is, you'll see what we're presently doing. The yellow is trash collection, and the blue is recycling, the voluntary recycling by Outer Banks hauling. The off-season, the non-summer schedule for the east route gets picked up Monday, Friday, I don't believe it's Saturday. Yeah. This, in the east route, we're picking up Monday and Friday. West route, we're picking up Tuesday and Friday. And the entire town voluntarily gets picked up on the recycling on Tuesday. There's summer schedule, we go to 3 days on the beach road, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And also, we're picking up recycling, or Outer Banks hauling is by contract, on the mandatory Tuesday, and that should be here on Saturday. And again, the west route stays the same. So when we talk about service day, I think it's important to say, you can go there. What we mean is it's one route, one day, one service. So for example, Monday trash collection on the east route is considered one service day. So, and that's kind of how we need to be looking at this, is we're equipped today to service based on the manpower and the equipment we have on service days. It's kind of how we look at it, and that just important to look at the next charts. The current service, again, this was in the non-summer, we're picking up the east route and the west route on these service days. And go to the next slide. So the two proposals we're looking at is, the first one would be that the contractor would go to mandatory recycling, for the contractor would pick up the entire town, all the recyclables, year-round, and the town would continue on its trash schedule. That's one option. The option that staff thinks would be the most desirable, and it's more of a hybrid approach, is that based on what we feel like we can do, the contractor would collect the east route recyclables May through summer. So basically, we would hope to come back to would be going to contract for the east route in the summer months. We feel like we have the manpower and the resources to be able to pick up the entire town in the winter, and to pick up the west route year-round. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So that first option would mean the non-summer schedule would be the town would pick up trash the same days, Monday and Friday. We would pick up recycling in the non-summer ourselves on Monday. The west route, the west route in the summer would change. We're suggesting that we switch a day of trash on the west route for recycling. So it's still 2 days of service, but instead of getting 2 days of trash pickup, it would be recycling on Tuesday and trash on Friday. And that would stay the same year-round on the west route. In the summer, the contractor would do the pick up the Monday and Saturday. It's what we're doing on the pilot program now, and then the town would continue to pick up the trash. This one's the entire contractor. Right, I've jumped ahead. This one shows that first option that I showed you, that the contractor would pick up everything. We'd still get 2 days of trash on the west side, and the contractor would pick up recycling on Tuesday, as they presently do. And then in the summer, we'd move to the 2 days on the beach road, and still 3 days of trash pickup. Trash would stay the same, contractor would add the days of recycling. That's what we think is the least desirable of the two, because it's not as cost effective. Go to the next one. Well, the good thing about this option is there's no reduction in service. Both summer and non-summer recycling for east route would move to Monday. And the reason being, we're trying to condition folks to roll both cans out on the same day, so they're not rolling one trash out on Monday and recycling on another day. So everything else would remain the same. The goal would be to clean up the town at the beginning of the week. As I said, recycling and trash would always be rolled out together. The good thing about this, though, is that the vendor provides all the service to the carts. That's another thing to consider, is that if we own the carts, for those, we have to service those carts to whatever degree, and it maintains the 5 days with town forces. The reason I'm jumping so far to option 2 is I really believe this is the one we ought to do. Option 2, the contractor would collect the east route recyclables May through September only. We'd continue with the current trash collection, but it would be reduced to accommodate town recycling. So that red would indicate what we do for recycling. On the non-summer, the off-season schedule, we would pick up trash Monday and Friday like we do now, and we believe that we could pick up the recycling in the off-season. We don't think the recyclables in the off-season would be more than we could handle. The summer schedule, though, is where we need a contractor to come in. We would pick up the east route Monday and Saturday. The contractor would pick up recycling Monday and Saturday. So again, you can see there, we're having the yellow and the blue on the same day. Monday, everything goes out. Saturday, everything goes out. And that Wednesday is shaded because at the retreat, we talked about the possibility of going to 2 days of trash pickup in the summer. And if we had the 2 days of recycling, that may be enough to handle the load, but we could continue to pick up trash on that Wednesday. Now, the other thing, you know, if we don't pick up trash on that Wednesday, the question becomes, what is staff going to be doing? If we're adding that many recycling cans, we're going to have some time to be able to manage that. And there are, because back when the economy, we were in the recession, through attrition, we didn't always hire folks back, and there were some things that we stopped doing as a result of that. One of the things was litter pickup. We used to have staff that would pick up just litter, not bulk, but just litter. We don't have that. That's something that may be a benefit. If we were to not pick up trash on Wednesday, that staff could devote more times to ensuring that our cans have the wheels and the lids that they need, and also picking up trash. The west route, we would pick up, again, instead of picking up trash on Tuesday, we'd pick up recycling on Tuesday and trash on Friday. So there's the least disruption to the west side by the town either way. So let's see, the benefits of this option, the next slide. We can reduce, there's a strategic reduction in the service to manage the additional recycling collection. This option gives us the ability to recycle and pick up trash as efficiently as we can with our staff. Both the summer and non-summer, west side would lose 1 day of trash, but they're gaining 1 day of recycling, and otherwise the collection stays the same. The service on the east route is the same as option 1. The contractor would do east route recycling, the town would do west route recycling. The Wednesday trash day, again, is an optional day. But for the purpose of this discussion, going out to RFP what we do with that Wednesday doesn't need to be determined today. We can discuss that Wednesday at another time. And the town would likely need to provide and service the carts. Now that's the big upfront one-time cost to this program, is if we're going to manage recycling except for the summer year-round, we're probably going to need to be the one that buys the cans, and that's a heavy expense in the first year, and it maintains 5 service days with town forces. Okay, next. Other things to consider, and the committee can do this while we go through the process, is who owns the recyclables. A lot of the RFPs and a lot of the contracts we've looked at question this. We think it's in the best interest for the contractor to own them. Now, if we're taking the recyclables, we're picking them up, remember, not only do we realize the reduction in the tipping fee, we also will get $10 a ton, is that right? $10 a ton for what we deliver. So there's a significant savings per ton on the tipping fees. We have to consider what we're going to do about the private streets. If we go to contract, that's something that we can put that requirement on the contract to determine, you have to service the town townwide. How are you going to do that? We're going to have to go through that same process. We have at least 2 recycling cans at each beach access. That needs to be factored in the process. Whether or not we lease the cart and the maintenance of the cart is a big issue. Where it's taken is another issue. It needs to be a certified facility. And customer service. Again, one of the real beauties about the town and the benefits that we have, not only for providing the service, I'll say that the guys that provide the service in sanitation are some of the best, if not the best, about going back they don't miss very much. And 9 out of 10 times they didn't miss it, it didn't get rolled out in time. But they go back and they do it. They'll get out, they'll clean up spills. They're very responsive. They tip cans back over, upright. And that's something you may lose, customer service. There's a cost to doing that, but that's something we may lose with the contractor because it's difficult. Once they're gone, and getting them back to take care of some of these things can be an issue. Again, the beauty of us being more highly involved in the process. Is there another one? Okay. I know it is a cute who's on first, what's on second type scenario when you look at this, and it can be very confusing, but staff feels like we have a handle on this. We'd like to be able to go out to an RFP and come back with a recommendation, but we are interested in moving forward with a more aggressive recycling program. So we're ready to take any questions or direction.
Any questions?
Just- No, go ahead, John.
I'm sorry.
You had your hand up first.
It would help to clarify this if we showed the residential folks that are on dumpsters and how they are impacted or not impacted, just so that everybody understands what we need when we talk about pickups, because we're
Right.
really talking about little carts, and we don't want to confuse the folks that are on dumpsters.
Right, we do obviously have, this does not affect commercial at all.
Understand
but-
it doesn't affect it, but we ought to
You're
have a
right.
little X in the corner that says residential dumpster is a different color,
Right.
just so they know where they are in the picture.
One of the things I think we need to do with the private streets is maybe reach out through this process to try and reach out to the individuals, particularly in the village. We have a lot of rental property in the village, and they're on the west route, and any reduction in service days is a concern. Not only that, there are some cul-de-sacs and HOAs, some neighborhoods there that we're going to have a very hard time and possibly may not be able to service some of those areas, either because we just can't access them or they may not want us to access them. But I think through this process of vetting RFP, we need to reach out and sit down and involve those private dumpster owners and private property owners, those that abut private street in the process before we sign a contract, so they know.
It's my opinion that we should offer them the opportunity to participate, because I think you'll find a number of them are perfectly willing to come up with a complementary solution to stay engaged in the program. And so we just let them work it out, figure out how they can stay within the program. I think they'll be quite happy, but.
Just a comment. I applaud the manager for coming up with 2 good options to present to us here, and particularly with the driving consideration being service as well as cost effectiveness. Very glad to see an option where the town staff would pick up quite a bit of the recycling load. But the jury's still out, and as I understand, you're just asking for kind of a go-ahead to go out with this RFP to gather the more accurate and final data that will then be thoroughly vetted, and you come back with that data aligned against these options for a good decision later
Yes,
on.
sir.
I'm very glad to see these options.
Thank you. The other thing I should mention is that the timeline for this, as we see it, would be to start this program in October. We would like to be able to continue, because we're set up for the pilot recycling program in June, to be able to extend that. We don't want to miss, and we don't want to skip a month of recycling. And in order to do that, if we start in October, we'll need to extend the pilot program to September and continue to give those that are voluntarily, the franchise expires in June. So we've asked to be able to extend that to September to cover the gap. So that's important for you to know.
Okay, so what do you need from us? Consensus to move forward?
4 nodding heads, please. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you need a motion to apply for the grant?
That's the next thing. The Ralph found through Diener, through their waste management branch, that there's an opportunity for us to apply for a grant. It's $30,000 to offset the cost of, we would apply to offset the cost of the carts. The grants are due at the end of this month. We're probably looking at the $250,000 range possibly to get. What's important is that everybody has the same recycling cart. They're all, ideally, they'd all be the same. And because right now we kind of have a mixture of our cans and their cans, and that gets to be confusing. So we want to start off to make sure everybody has the same cart. We're asking to be able to apply for a grant. We have talked to the grant administrator with Division of Waste Management, because there's a possibility we apply for this and you don't do, for whatever reason we decide not to do that, that's a risk that they're aware of in us applying for this grant, that if we are awarded, it would be in next year's budget, so we wouldn't be appropriating funds to match this until next year's budget. But it would offset the cost of the cans, some.
So do we have consensus to move forward? And we need a motion?
Motion to authorize staff to apply for the grant with the Recycling Business Development Grant, I guess.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, we have consideration of request for additional funds for the Causeway Estuarine Access launch. David Ryan?
I'll start while he's getting up here. This is a grant we applied for some time back, and through the process of the change and that we've been through in the last year, this has been on the list, but it's one that we've finally gotten to the point where we're ready to go to a contract. David will explain the need for the additional budget. It came in over budget, and we tried to get it as engineer it down to get it under budget, but couldn't quite get there, so we're requesting additional funds. But I did want to explain part of the reason why it's taken so long to get to this point, but we're ready to do the project now, if you approve.
Yes, in your packet is a timeline, basically just summarizing those events that have occurred to date related to this project. The original grant was for $18,860 to go ahead and cover not only the design, but the construction of this project. We recently put this out to bid. We contacted 4 local contractors and basically received 1 bid back, and that bid was over the budgeted amount. So basically, we did some value engineering on it, on the kayak launch facility, to see where we could go ahead and cut back on some of the costs. And so in your packet, there's just some items that denote those areas where we had basically were able to save some money by going ahead, increasing the bay length, reducing the pile embedment, just basically cutting back on some of the materials and trying to economize the design as much as possible. In doing so, we were able to save close to, I think it was $2,800 from that original bid amount, but we're still over budget. I think we've made every best effort in order to scale back and provide a quality project. But at this point, we're asking the board for $2,000 to go ahead and make up for that shortfall in moving forward with this project.
Okay, any questions?
One.
Comments?
Where's the money coming from? should the board approve this.
The boardwalk, was that correct? The board had appropriated some funds for design of the boardwalk along the Sound. We've gotten about as far as we can with planning that project, and so there's some funds remaining from that we'd be able to transfer if you approve.
Any other questions? Need a motion?
I make a motion that we authorize staff to proceed with this project and to increase the budgeted amount up to $2,000.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the presentation from our town attorney. Would you like to hold those to the end of the meeting? or-
That would be fine. All I have is the request to enter closed session, and that can wait till the end.
Okay. All right. Items referred and presentations from the town manager?
Just one thing, late yesterday afternoon, I received a request from Lad Bayless with the Coastal Federation, and asked if we would consider sending a letter to BOEM, the Bureau of Ocean and Energy Management, to request, they have a public input meeting. It's more of a scoping meeting for the offshore energy exploration. They have a meeting set in Wilmington. Right now, they don't have any meetings set anywhere else. And she's requesting of the different municipalities, and I think we've all the towns have sent resolutions in the regard of concerning this. But the request is to send a letter requesting that they have a public meeting on the northern Outer Banks, or in the northern section of the state. So if the board's agreeable to this, we can craft a letter, maybe go ahead and get it out for the Mayor Pro Tem's signature, requesting that they hold a meeting here in Dare County, or at least northeastern North Carolina.
What's your pleasure?
It's hard for everybody in northeastern North Carolina to drive to Wilmington.
It is.
I think that when they do these schedulings, that they should consider that they need to have it in at least 2, if not 3 sections of the state, lower, middle, and northern.
Northern.
Yeah, we all know they're different anyway.
That's right. That's right. I would endorse moving forward with this.
Got this late, haven't really had a chance to digest the implications of the whole thing, as town managers has mentioned. I'd just like to ask a question. Any downside to this that you can see, considering that we've previously taken positions on this type of subject before? Anything that we should be concerned about?
I don't think so, because the request is to have the ability for both sides to speak, whether you're pro or against the offshore drilling. This is an opportunity for both sides to come and hear what the plans are. So I don't think it's obviously there's probably going to be more of a sentiment at these meetings, I think, against than for, and they know that, but if they're going to have it in Wilmington, they should consider having it here. But I don't think there's any downside.
Thank you.
I agree. I think we're just asking to stay involved in the process and have the opportunity to comment, so. Okay. So is that good, just by consensus, to move forward?
I think so.
Okay. Next item, Board of Commissioners agenda. I'd just like to give a brief report on where we are on the Dowdy Park planning process. As everyone knows, we purchased the Dowdy Park, their Dowdy property to be a park for all ages in perpetuity. We have an ad hoc committee that's been meeting since March 25th of 14, and our committee is made up of 4 men and 4 women of various ages. To date, we've had 13 meetings, including 3 public forums and a design charrette. We've also had over 700 survey responses, in addition to phone calls, emails, and conversations with our citizens as to what they would like to see at the park. At our most recent public forum, which was held here on January 27th, 3 design concepts were presented to our community, our mayor and commissioners. We had approximately 25 attendees, and after the presentation, our citizens had the opportunity to look at the 3 concepts, and we have those in the back of the room today, to provide feedback, not only to committee members present, but also staff and interaction with our board. So our board was there to listen to their views and truly hear what the community wants, in addition to all the other feedback that we've had. And the citizens completed comment cards, and those will all be reviewed at our next committee meeting. The next step is our committee will meet again on Tuesday, February 10th at 3 p.m. with our design team of VHB and Albemarle Engineering. And all of the comments will be reviewed at that time, and we will work toward developing a consensus concept to present to our Board of Commissioners, and hopefully that we'll be able to do that sometime in March, hopefully. Once our master plan concept is approved, the plan documents will be generated for future construction. Funding for the project, which will be completed in phases, will be discussed in our budget process this year, and we've already applied for a part of grant and will be constantly looking for additional grant opportunities. Andy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's great.
Okay. Like, any questions, or? I really appreciate everyone being at the last public forum. I hope you found it beneficial.
Very much, it was interesting.
Good. Any other agenda items from the board? Yes, ma'am.
Two last-minute things, if I can.
Okay, sure.
First off, and I really should have mentioned it under committee reports, but I'm really pleased to be on the board at the YMCA. There's a whole bunch of new things to get involved in as we move forward with that facility and our relationship there. And I have a much deeper understanding. I reflected back when I got there, there's probably 60 years ago when I first joined the YMCA. For swimming and basketball and camp and all of that good stuff. So it's, it's been around a while. Secondly, and this just came to my attention yesterday, apparently and it kind of piggybacks on Cliff things, but apparently there are 2 requests in for seismic surveys off the coast, and it's in federal water, but DCM gets to put comments together for what they call a consistency review of that. And it's on the Diener website. I'm not going to try and read a link here, but these sort of things are going on, and we and everybody else, if they have an interest in the question, should be monitoring these sort of things. And there's a 2 March suspense for email comments from the public on these 2 seismic surveys and more data. I don't have any of that data for the specifics of the request, I just got this, but it's something to keep our eye on.
Just as a follow-up, people can give their comments to Braxton Davis, who is the director of Division of Coastal Management. NOAA has a contract with the state for consistency reviews, and if the Division of Coastal Management deems that this is not consistent, then the NOAA has to take further steps,
Right.
even though it's in federal water. So comments do matter. So if anybody's got any comments about these seismic tests, and there are 2 companies, as you said, please go ahead and get those comments in, because it can affect the position that CAMA would take.
If you're looking for them, it's on Diener, under DCM, offshore G&G surveys. So seismic surveys. And I'll get a link to the
Maybe we can
clerk,
provide
so
that
we can put
on
a
our
link in
website?
yeah.
Marvin?
I do have just one alibi. The town manager and I have recently become aware of a newly formed Stormwater Association of North Carolina. It falls under the auspices of the Division of Energy, Minerals, and Land Resources, and has recognition and a point of contact in the League of Municipalities, but we don't know very much more about it as of yet. And so with the board's support, I'd like to ask the town manager to inquire further at the conference that he's leaving for this afternoon, where he'll be in contact with some of these key folks and bring back more information, costs, benefits, et cetera, of participating in this association. From what I've seen so far, it's a very minimal expense, but I'd like to bring back the full information to the board for our next appropriate meeting.
Is everyone in agreement?
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we will go into closed session. Mr. Whitey, would you read out the statute?
I'd like for the board to enter closed session in accordance with General Statute 143-318.11A3 in order to confer with the town attorney regarding the Sarasota litigation, and also to confer with the attorney regarding a matter within the attorney-client privilege. I understood there may have been another reason for closed session. We're still having the other meeting. We also need to enter a closed session in order for the board to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or business in town pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A4.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Our meeting is back in session. Mr. Leidy, would you please report out from our closed session?
Yes, ma'am. The board did discuss the Sarasota litigation and also discuss matters within the attorney-client privilege, and also engaged in discussions on the other item the board entered closed session to discuss, but no actions were taken.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thank you.